A young woman pulls into her garage after a late workout, steps out of her car, and in an instant, an arrow slices across her face, splitting her ear and sending blood down her cheek. How does a simple household disagreement over the thermostat turn into a months-long plan to end a sibling's life with a crossbow? This is Samy Sedhom, a 21-year-old from Long Island, New York, charged with second-degree attempted murder after allegedly shooting his 28-year-old sister, Stephanie, in the face with a crossbow on February 13, 2026. Police reports indicate he waited in his vehicle across the street for her sister to return home from the gym, fired a hunting arrow, a crossbow, that grazed her face, and admitted to investigators that he had been planning to kill her since around Christmas of 2025. The motive stemmed from ongoing sibling arguments, including fights over the home temperature. She liked it cooler, he preferred warmer. He faces additional charges of first-degree assault, criminal possession of a weapon, tampering with physical evidence, and first-degree stalking, with a full stay-away order in place and Sedhom held in custody. His defense has suggested the incident was a prank that went terribly wrong. As a licensed professional counselor since 2007, still seeing clients full-time every day, because apparently I can't help but keep showing up for the long haul. That hands-on clinical experience, however, keeps my lens grounded for these analyses on the clinical file. Everything I discuss remains my speculation based on publicly reported behavioral patterns. It's never a formal diagnosis of anyone involved. There's no sensationalism, there's no judgment, just tracing the psychological threads and those subtle warning signs that can accumulate quietly. Another case, another clinical file. Woohoo! The attack happened around 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. when Stephanie arrived home. Prosecutors state that Sedhom, her brother, had positioned himself with a crossbow, fired the arrow that struck her face, and caused a laceration splitting her ear. She remained stable after the hospital treatment, but authorities note that a shift of inches could have made this a fatal incident. Police recovered the crossbow and additional arrows from the scene. One of the most compelling psychological aspects is the extreme escalation from everyday sibling friction to a premeditated ambush over something as mundane as the house temperature. Low frustration tolerance often underlies such overreactions, where minor disagreements feel like personal attacks on autonomy or control. In shared living environments, these small conflicts can symbolize deeper power struggles, especially when one person perceives the other's preferences as deliberate opposition. Sedhom's reported planning since Christmas suggests obsessive rumination, where a grievance takes root and grows unchecked. Obsessive thinking can fuel fixation on perceived wrongs, turning a thermostat setting into a symbol of unresolved resentment. This kind of prolonged focus without resolution or de-escalation points to difficulty processing interpersonal tension, allowing the idea of violence to solidify over weeks. The method, a crossbow for a silent, ranged attack, reflects calculated intent rather than spontaneous anger. Choosing a weapon that requires setup and positioning indicates premeditation, where the offender weighs lethality while maintaining distance. Yet executing it in a family garage with immediate risk of discovery by a family or neighbors reflects an impressive level of optimism about avoiding consequences. Events unfolded in a sequence one might charitably describe as less than ideal for discretion, providing authorities with straightforward evidence from the scene. This echoes cases where familiar disputes escalate dramatically over perceived control. Believe it or not, this happened before, such as the 2016 Toronto case of Brett Ryan, who hid a crossbow in his family garage and used it during an argument to kill his mother and two brothers in an attempt to conceal his financial lies and robberies from his fiancée. In those situations, minor triggers become proxies for broader unaddressed emotions. leading to disproportionate responses when emotional regulation fails. As someone who spends far too much time thinking about these patterns, even I find the jump from thermostat battles to crossbow ambush surprising. It serves as a reminder that overconfidence in handling family tension can mask vulnerabilities in impulse control until a breaking point arrives. The months of waiting while living under the same roof highlights potential stalking elements within family dynamics. Stalking behaviors in close relationships often stem from a fixation on dominance or revenge, involving monitoring routines to time an act. The brothers' alleged admission of intent since Christmas points to persistent rumination that escalated without external intervention or self-correction. If walking through these behavioral patterns gave you new insight into how unresolved sibling conflicts can spiral into extreme violence, I'd love to keep bringing you these breakdowns. Subscribe if you want the next one to land in your feed. That way you'll always have the psychological context ready when another case breaks. The choice to target a sibling in the family home adds a profound layer of betrayal, striking at someone with a shared history and daily proximity. This can be linked to displaced aggression, where frustration from life stressors or unexpressed feelings redirects onto the most accessible figure of conflict. In sibling cases, rivalry often intensifies when boundaries feel blurred, turning ordinary differences into threats to personal space or identity. Similar dynamics appear in other sibling assault cases where long simmering tensions lead to planned attacks, often rationalized through minor grievances. The why in these cases frequently involve poor conflict resolution, entitlement to dictate the environment, and failure to tolerate differing views without escalation. The brothers' reported tampering with evidence afterward reflect attempts to minimize fallout once the act occurred, common when initial impulsivity shifts to fear of accountability. The immediate arrest without flight further illustrates impaired judgment under pressure, where heightened arousal narrows focus and limits adaptive responses. These elements, obsessive fixation on trivial disputes, low frustration tolerance, premeditated planning, potential stalking behaviors, they all frame an acute escalation where ordinary family friction met unchecked, emotional dysregulation, nearly resulting in irreversible harm. Here are the key mental health terms that I reference throughout this video. Frustration tolerance, the ability to withstand annoyances or setbacks without emotional overload. Low levels contribute to outsized reactions to minor issues. Obsessive thinking, persistent intrusive focus on a grievance or idea can drive rumination and long-term planning of harmful actions. Premeditation, deliberate forethought and planning over time. It signals intent rather than impulse, often linked to rigid or inflexible thinking. Displaced aggression, redirecting anger from its original source onto a more accessible target, common in close relationships where direct expressions feel unsafe. Stalking behaviors, repeated monitoring or pursuit in family settings that can arise from fixation on control or retribution for perceived slights. This case is an ultimate sibling dispute. Siblings are going to fight, they're going to argue, they're going to disagree on so many different things, minor things. But this case, the minor thing really could have ended up in a major life-altering act. His sister could have died. He could be in prison for life. And his sister just inches away from death. So what did you think about this case? Were there any elements of the mental health patterns that stood out to you? And that, my friends, closes another clinical file. Until next time, keep looking a little deeper, stay curious, and stay safe. Meanwhile, I'll be over here profiling my own coffee choices until the next file opens. I need to come up with some better ones.